The winter storm howled across the mountains of Colorado, battering the small cabin where Jake lived in peaceful isolation. He had chosen this remote location precisely to avoid the complications of galactic politics that had consumed Earth since first contact 3 years ago. As a former military engineer, he preferred the simple life of chopping wood and maintaining his solar panels over dealing with the complex web of alien alliances and trade agreements. The knock on his door came at nearly midnight, barely audible. Above the wind, Jake grabbed his flashlight and opened the door to find a figure collapsed in the snow. The being before him was clearly not human. Her skin held a faint blue tint, and her ears came to subtle points. Her clothing appeared to be some kind of advanced material, but it was torn and provided little protection against the brutal cold. Without hesitation, Jake pulled the unconscious alien inside and wrapped her in blankets near his fireplace. Her breathing was shallow, and her body temperature felt dangerously low. He had no idea about alien physiology, but hypothermia seemed universal enough. He heated water and gradually warmed her extremities, then prepared hot soup while she slowly regained consciousness. When she finally opened her eyes, they were a striking violet color that seemed to hold depths of intelligence and wariness. She struggled to sit up, immediately scanning the room for threats before her gaze settled on Jake. "You are human," she said in accented but clear English. Her voice carried an odd musical quality. "Guilty as charged," Jake replied, offering her the bowl of soup. "Found you half frozen outside. Figured you might want to avoid becoming an ice sculpture." She accepted the food cautiously, as if expecting poison. After the first tentative sip, however, she began eating with obvious hunger. Jake noticed her hands trembling, whether from cold or something else. He could not tell. "I am Kira," she said between spoonfuls. "I must leave soon." "In this storm? You would not make it 50 yards. Jake settled into his chair across from her. "Whatever trouble you are running from can wait until the weather clears." Something in her expression shifted, surprised perhaps that he was not demanding explanations or threatening to turn her over to authorities. Most humans would have immediately contacted the Galactic Liaison Office about finding an unregistered alien. Over the following days, as the storm raged outside, Kira slowly revealed pieces of her story. She was part of a rebel faction opposing what she called the corruption of traditional ways in her society. Her people, the Velani, had recently entered into what she considered disgraceful compromises with other galactic powers. She had been part of a group that had stolen important data, but they had been betrayed. She was the only one who had escaped. Jake listened without judgment, sharing his own meals and offering her his spare room. He taught her to play chess, and she showed him meditation techniques that helped focus the mind. They found common ground in their preference for simple living over the complexities of their respective societies. Kira proved to be both intelligent and stubborn. She insisted on helping with daily tasks, despite Jake's protests that she was still recovering. She chopped wood with surprising strength and helped repair a section of roof damaged by the storm. Her knowledge of advanced engineering impressed Jake, and they spent hours discussing improvements to his cabin systems. What struck Jake most was her fierce independence. She accepted his help grudgingly and seemed uncomfortable with any act of kindness. It was as if she had never experienced generosity without strings attached. Gradually, however, she began to relax, even laughing at Jake's terrible jokes and sharing stories of her homeworld's strange customs. The peaceful routine was shattered when the ships arrived. Jake was outside splitting logs when he saw them. 3 sleek vessels that moved with the fluid grace characteristic of Velani technology. They landed in his clearing with barely a whisper of displaced air. Kira emerged from the cabin, her face pale but determined. The beings who exited the lead ship were clearly of the same species as Kira, but they wore elaborate ceremonial armor and moved with military precision. The one in front removed his helmet, revealing features similar to Kira's, but bearing the unmistakable bearing of authority. "Princess Kiranel Vashtar," he said formally, "your father commands your immediate return." Jake felt the world shift beneath his feet. Princess, the rebellious young woman he had been sharing meals with, was royalty. Kira straightened, and suddenly Jake could see the noble bearing she had been hiding. "I told him I would not be part of his political games, Commander Vel. That has not changed. The Emperor grows tired of your defiance. The alliance with the Terran government requires your presence at the signing ceremony. You will represent our people's commitment to this partnership." "I will represent nothing," Kira replied coldly. "Find another puppet for your theater." The commander's expression hardened, and his hand moved toward his weapon. Jake stepped forward, placing himself between the armed aliens and Kira. "Now hold on," Jake said calmly. "She is under my protection as my guest. If you want to have a political discussion, you can do it without the weapons." Commander Vel looked at Jake with obvious disdain. "Human, you have no understanding of the forces at play here. The princess will return with us, willing or not." "Actually," Jake replied, "I understand perfectly. She does not want to go, and this is sovereign Earth territory. That makes it pretty simple from where I stand." What happened next surprised everyone. Kira laughed, a sound Jake had rarely heard from her, but one that held genuine warmth. "You would challenge the Valani Imperial Guard for someone you barely know?" she asked. Jake shrugged. "You helped me fix my roof. Seems like the least I can do." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Then Kira stepped forward and placed her hand on Jake's shoulder. "Commander, inform my father that I have found something here worth more than all his political alliances. I choose exile." The commander's face cycled through several expressions before settling on resignation. "He will not accept this, Princess." "Then he will have to learn," Kira replied, "as I have learned that some bonds are chosen, not commanded." As the ships departed, Jake turned to Kira with raised eyebrows. "So, Princess, huh? That is going to make introducing you to the neighbors interesting." Kira smiled, the first truly relaxed expression he had seen from her. "Just Kira, Will? Do. After all, I have wood to chop and a roof to maintain." The storm had passed, but Jake realized he no longer desired the solitude he had once cherished. Sometimes the most valuable things came disguised as burdens, frozen and lost in the snow, waiting for someone foolish enough to offer warmth without asking for payment in return.